From the ECSI Sports Studios and the #1 sports investors in America, we bring you the closing bell. As the market closes, legends Jeff Dawson and Riley Magnuson bring you all the sports investing tips for tonight's matchups. If you want to learn more from the two legends at the desk, make sure you stay tuned to the closing bell. ECSI fans, you want to revolutionize your sports event? ECSI fans, you want to revolutionize your sports investing habits? Allow me to tell you about WagerWire. WagerWire is an app that helps you become a superior bettor by allowing you to sync all of your sports books and track all of your bets in one place. See your current action, your betting history, and stats. You can also sign up for sportsbooks and collect bonus offers. Follow them at WagerWire on X, as they're the best account on the platform. Head to the App Store or Play Store now and search WagerWire to download the app.
Good afternoon, sports fans from all around the globe. This is East Coast Sports Investors Closing Bell for Wednesday, September 11th. I am your, for the day, potentially solo host. We may have an appearance from my, as per usual, co-host and host of the ECSI Airwaves, Mr. Jeff Dawson. But for now, coming in, popping in, catching you solo for maybe a little pop into Wednesday night's action, but more importantly, if you've been listening to us the past couple of days, getting a little preview in and out of the way for this weekend's Big Ten football action. We've got plenty of good games on the docket for the Big Ten. I think nothing until Saturday, so no appetizers, at least in the Big Ten on Thursday or Friday. It is all Saturday action. From morning until the late hours of college football Saturday. So outside of that, thank you to WagerWire for being a proud partner and sponsor of the ECSI Airwaves. We do love their partnership and appreciate everything they do and everything that they stand for and everything that they have to offer. So if you are not familiar with WagerWire, go and check them out. Download them on any of your favorites or any of your app stores that you have. And, of course, go follow them on X. They are a very, very smart and knowledgeable follow that'll help you become a smarter gambler. And these airwaves will give you more resources, more importantly, there. So, again, if you're typically with me, this one will probably be pretty short and sweet, even if we are looking ahead to Saturday. Not going to go into every single Big Ten game. We later on in the year, when we're getting into the Big Ten conference schedule, we might do that, as we might not have as many, and games are a little more important. But there is a couple of Michigan and Arkansas State, for example, Michigan State Prairie View, that we're probably going to skip right over because there's not much to see with those games, because there's probably going to be some shellackings on the hand of the Big Ten team in those cases there. So we do have some interesting games. We got one that's I think the big noon kickoff on Fox that is hosted by a Big Ten team, but could be all Alabama. Alabama and Wisconsin Is the first one up on our list here. We've got 3 in that noon time slot there. One of them being Michigan and Arkansas State. Michigan by 23.5. Expect them to bounce back and get themselves back on track. What the ceiling of their season is going to be is obviously still to be determined. As far as Michigan is concerned, they obviously have Ohio State later in the year. Following this game, next week they are hosting USC. So if they really want to get themselves back on track and get themselves back into the potential picture of the Big Ten and the college football playoff, they obviously got to win that game and then rattle off. A 10-2 season could still get them where they want to be at the end of the season, but that win against USC is going to be massive. They've got Oregon on their schedule as well, and then like I said, they've got Ohio State as per usual. So they've got three massive in tough games, not to mention a handful of other teams that could give them a run for their money if they're not up to snuff and up to par. Like, of course, they're not as good as they were the last 2 years, but still going to be a good team and a tough out on the Big Ten schedule. So we'll breeze past that. But as far as Alabama and Wisconsin is concerned, Wisconsin opening up, not opening up, currently standing as a 16.5 point favorite. In some spots, you can get it at 16. The total 49.5. Team totals for this game: Alabama 32.5, maybe a flat 32 in some spots. 16.5 for Wisconsin here on the team total there. So as far as this one for me, I was optimistic for year 2 of the Luke Fickell regime in Wisconsin, thinking that that would be a little bit of a step up from what we saw last year, a team that was a little inconsistent, but still not a bad team, not a great team. Thought they would be a kind of a dark horse in the Big Ten, and they still can be, of course. They're 2-0 in the non-conference. Unless something goes, an upset happens here, they're going to be 2-1 heading into the Big Ten schedule. Their next game is actually at USC. They get a week off, unlike Michigan, but they go to USC to get themselves going into their Big Ten schedule. So it is a tough schedule for them as well. They've got Penn State as well. They've got Oregon. They don't play Michigan and Ohio State, but they obviously got some of the tough newcomers into this one. So they just flat out, they have to be better than they were the last 2 weeks. Defensively, not bad, but nothing too impressive, and offensively looking very similar to what we saw from them last year. Wanting more explosiveness, and just not getting it. 28-14, 27-13 wins in weeks 1 and 2 against Western Michigan and South Dakota, FCS team South Dakota. So, and neither of them covering the spreads. They were favored by quite a bit more than that in both those games there. So for me in this one, defensively, Wisconsin could give Alabama some trouble. I'm still curious to see what we get from Alabama on a week-to-week basis. Obviously did not look great against South Florida for the second year in a row, but did not look great against South Florida last week, and then the last 5-6 minutes of the game blow them out of the water, and the scoreboard looks a lot worse than a lot further, a much bigger blowout than the game actually was. So as far as Alabama offense against Wisconsin defense, I don't really know what to expect. I think I expect Alabama to put up points and kind of control this game, but Wisconsin's defense could give them some problems here and there, and keep this keep this from being a total blowout for most of this game here. Wisconsin's offense against this Alabama defense, I'm very concerned of, and they're kind of giving you the carrot there, as Jeff likes to say, of 16.5, hoping you'll take the over to get them to that key number of 17. If the same Wisconsin offense comes out against Alabama, they are not going to put up 17 points. They'll have to get a little lucky. Again, could they come out and look better and break out of it? Maybe, but I'm not expecting that. I have not been impressed by this Wisconsin offense so far. So my only suggestion on this one so far is I'm kind of expecting Wisconsin to stay under that 16.5 number and struggle offensively, and maybe we get a 30-14 type, and that's kind of what they're predicting, maybe a few more points than that, but 30-14, I think 33-17 is technically what they're kind of telling you there, but I'll go with the 30-14 prediction out of this game. Alabama wins for the most part pretty handily here, and game stays right around that total, but I'll go leaning towards the under. Wisconsin not able to get over that team total there, but would be greatly impressed if they do, if they can pull off something or even give Alabama a run for their money, look better offensively. I'll be a lot more optimistic about Wisconsin being that dark horse that I talked about there, and maybe going into USC and giving them a run for their money, giving Penn State a run for their money as well, depending on what we see from Penn State here these next few weeks. But Not expecting a ton out of Wisconsin, although the crowd, obviously, it's in Wisconsin. Their fan base is fantastic. Curious to see how electric that stadium will be. I know the fan base obviously is going to show up no matter what, no matter who's playing for either side there, but not quite as excited for that game as you would hope them to be. So I'm curious to see on game day how intense that stadium is in Wisconsin for the Badgers there. You've got Illinois in the follow-up to that Kansas game, hosting Central Michigan. And I do expect Illinois to win this game, but I'm not saying it's going to be it is kind of a letdown spot after a huge win against Kansas. I'm not saying they are going to let you down and lose this game. But as far as covering this game or dominating this game, I'm not quite expecting that. The Central Michigan team, just coming off of a huge loss themselves, 16-52 at the hands of Florida International. So it was obviously ugly there. They were actually favored in that game. So that was a huge, huge shocker, ugly, at least for MAC standards, Central Michigan standards. Ugly result there. So I expect them to kind of bounce back and obviously give Illinois everything that they possibly have here. And Illinois not to be ready for that. So I'm going to think I'm kind of leaning towards Central Michigan at least scoring some points in this game. Their team total 14.5. I will go to the over of that one. Illinois' offense a little clunky last week. Kansas, in most cases, outgained Illinois in that game here. I'm trying to pull up the exact stats of that one. But Kansas outgained Illinois 327 to 271. More first downs. Illinois did have more passing yards, but only 192, so nothing spectacular there, and an ugly rushing attack from Illinois in that game. So I think you'd be buying very, very high in Illinois if you're taking Illinois in this game. So I'm not saying that they lose. I do expect them to win and show up in this game. And Brett Bielema in his history against some lesser opponents has obviously shown up and taken care of business here. But I'll go with a 30-17 Illinois victory. Maybe they don't even get to 30 here. So I'm kind of going towards the Central Michigan cover and going over their team total of 14.5 and putting a few points up on their board, and Illinois having to work a little harder for this one than they might expect out of this game. But huge win for Illinois last week. They got to avoid, obviously, a huge letdown and an upset spot because they go to Nebraska next Friday for as long as they can win this game. Nebraska holds serve. Both teams 3-0. Kind of a big game. I'm not obviously Nebraska's going to be favored in that game, but as far as dark horses go, kind of a big game for some potential Big Ten dark horses there. A couple of rivalry games, new Big Ten rivalries, former Pac-12 rivalries. Oregon and Oregon State. Oregon, the favorite in this one, obviously. I think currently by 16. Just trying to get my most accurate number here. 16.5 in some cases, maybe in most cases at this point. 50.5 on the full game total in this one. Oregon, I think if Oregon steamrolled Boise State last week, this one might be a better potential chance for a little bit of a scare upset spot for Oregon State here. But with Oregon kind of having their scare, at least in non-conference play last week, now having their going to their our in-state rivals building for this one, I don't think they're going to be sleeping on Oregon State, for lack of a better term, in that one. So I do expect Oregon to kind of roll in this one. The only the interesting thing about this series, though, the last few years is that these teams have actually split each of the last four matchups here: Oregon State, Oregon, Oregon State, Oregon. Last year, however, Oregon kind of going to another level. Oregon State slipping a little bit. Oregon wins that one 31-7. So as far as the spread, it wouldn't surprise me if Oregon State hangs around a little bit here. But Oregon State team total 16.5. Oregon Ducks team total 33.5. I'm a little worried about Oregon State offensively in this one. I think Oregon's defense is what wakes up a little bit more in this game than what they showed against Boise State, obviously. So kind of expecting Oregon's defense to show up here. But Oregon State, I think, could make this a scrappy game themselves here and try and keep this game a little lower on the total. 50.5 after some of these scores and some of this in the series before is a little low for me. So I'm going to lean towards the game total going under. Maybe Oregon State scraps it up a bit. Maybe it's just another 28-7 type game, kind of similar to what we had last year, and it goes way under. But Oregon takes care of business. Maybe they don't cover me. I don't know what to expect as far as the final result, other than kind of thinking this one goes and stays under. You're not going to have as much high flying in this game as you might expect. Oregon State's defense can be a little scrappy and scrap it up here. So not going to be a pretty game in my opinion here. I expect Oregon's defense to really wake up and bounce back after what we saw from them last week. So no upset special here, though. Definitely no upset special there. Washington and Washington State, the other one that could be really, really fun here. Washington State 2-0. Washington, obviously, after a huge, huge season, starting things out 2-0. Their schedule of opponents so far pretty weak, obviously. I think it's Weber State, 35-3 FCS opponent, and I do believe there. And Eastern Michigan out of the MAC, 38-9 as 25-point favorites, so fail to cover that one. Whereas Washington State, two very impressive offensive performances. Another FCS opponent, I do believe it was. I think it's Portland State, 70-30. So the offense goes crazy. And then last week, as short dogs against Texas Tech, 37-16. So offense really, really working so far for Washington State. Whereas Washington still not sure what to expect. New coaching regime. And no serious opponents coming into their building just yet. And this one obviously is a huge rivalry, and these games are typically pretty fun. Washington's obviously been the benefactor the last few years here. However, last year's game 24-21 in Washington's favor, but as 15-point favorites. This time around, you've got 4.5, 5 point spread, depending on where you're looking here, in favor of Washington. 56-point game total, and the team totals for this one: Washington State 24.5, Washington right at that 30.5 number juiced over. As far as who wins, I don't know what to expect. Again, we still are yet to see anything, any tests for this Washington team here. They get some seriously lesser opponents, and they do what they need to do offensively and defensively for the most part there. Nothing over the top offensively there. But I am buying the Washington State offense a little bit here, and I will go with their team total over 24.5 on their side of things. Could Washington show up and put up 30, 35, 40, whatever it is? Maybe. I wouldn't be surprised by that. So instead of taking the 4.5, 5, I'd feel better if you like Washington State and think they're going to show up and play a great game. Then, I do think they can get over that 24.5 number there and take care of business on their team total. I'll go with the upset prediction and go Washington State because I like what I've seen from them. Not overly impressed by Washington, despite the no real test there. Still not as big of a big of a blowout as you would have liked to see if you were waiting for Washington to make a statement out of their new coaching regime the first couple of games here. But still, don't want to put too much stock into that. But I'll go on record with the Washington upset special, but if that's the case, I do feel pretty confidently that they'll get over that 24.5 number. So could be a little bit of a bounce-back situation for Washington following that. So if that is the case, then definitely want to monitor that. They've got a game against Northwestern the following week after that, so not sure what the spread will be in that one. They'll be favored in that one, even if they lose this game. And you could probably expect them to flex their muscles a little bit if they do lose that game. That is a big if, obviously. And Washington State, if they were to win this game, they've got San Jose State coming into town. So if they were to win this game, a kind of a tough spot to see them falling off and losing that game. But you never know, obviously. So stuff to watch if there is an upset here, and you might have a bounce-back situation for Washington. And depending on what that spread is, maybe a regression spot for Washington State. Notre Dame, Purdue. Notre Dame obviously coming off of that loss to Northern Iowa, the Huskies of sort of my neck of the woods here in the Northern Illinois area. Notre Dame now on the road in Purdue. 9.5, 10-point favorites, 9.5 in some spots, juiced minus 120, 125 to Notre Dame side of things. And a lot of other spots, a flat 10 on the spread there. 45.5 on the game total. Team totals, Notre Dame 27.5, Purdue 16.5, juiced over. So I think I don't know what to expect out of this Purdue team here yet. All we've seen from them is a 49-0 performance 2 weeks ago against FCS team Indiana State. This is I believe, year 2 of a newer coaching regime for Purdue. We have a lot of respect for it, but inherited a roster with a ton of turnover last year, still trying to build that up. So I do think this is going to be one of the lesser teams of the Big Ten, of a tough Big Ten, of a deep Big Ten. Not saying they're going to be bad, completely flat out bad. Not saying they can't give Notre Dame a run for their money here, but not as much talent yet as you would like on this Purdue side of things. Notre Dame's offense, however, is certainly concerning, and I do think this Purdue defense can give them some fits here. So I don't really have a play out of this one. I expect Notre Dame to bounce back and get a win here. I expect their defense to be very good against this Purdue offense. Notre Dame's defense is going to come out with some ferocity and some urgency there. Offensively, I don't think you're going to get a huge bounce back. I think you'll get a better game from them, better game plan, and better flow of their offense. But I don't think it's going to be explosive, blowing Purdue out of the waters here. So I'll go in and say Purdue stays under their 16.5 team total. Notre Dame's defense flexes their muscles a little bit. If you like Notre Dame to wake up and bounce back in a big way, I do think it is a little more of a sure thing. Maybe not sure thing. I don't want to say that, but a little more confidence to their defense than their offense there. So still figuring out these teams, though. If Purdue comes out looking great, then maybe I'm underestimating Purdue coming into the season. But I do think you're not going to be overly impressed by what you see from their offense in this game here. Moving on down the line, there's not too many left. You've got a Iowa team looking for a bounce back at home against Troy, which I maybe we don't expect, but I would say I expect. They're 22.5-point favorites, 39 on the game total there. Nebraska's got a game against FCS opponent Northern Iowa, 27.5-point favorites. We expect them to roll in that one. Northwestern's got a game against FCS opponent Eastern Illinois. 24-point spread on that one. Again, I don't know enough about Eastern Illinois to say that that's probably too many points for Northwestern here. But again, I have no idea what to expect out of Eastern Illinois. Eastern Illinois, for reference, loses to Illinois a couple weeks ago, 45-0. So offensively, probably going to be a struggle, as this Northwestern defense is not bad by any stretch. Offensively, though, I'm curious to see if Northwestern will have enough firepower to outpace them by that much. I would lean towards that spread being kind of spot on, if you ask me there. So the last two games that are definitely worth talking about and aren't going to move the picture of the Big Ten Conference for the rest of the year necessarily, but are at least games that could be very, very solid here. The first one, Indiana and UCLA, a Big Ten matchup now with UCLA in the Big Ten. Indiana, we talked about it briefly for a second the other day. Indiana favored on the road here at UCLA. 24.5 on their team total. UCLA 21.5 for that side of things on their team total. Game total 46.5. I've been impressed by this Indiana team thus far. Again, competition level, they take down Florida International 31-7. Western Illinois FCS team 77-3 last week, so obviously a drubbing there. But they're doing what you need them to do. UCLA only 1-0, 16-13 win at Hawaii, which obviously a weird situation there in some cases there. So not overly impressive in that game offensively, but still a little too early to tell. But they're putting plenty of respect on Indiana coming on the road to UCLA as favorites here. Not sure what to expect out of this UCLA offense against this Indiana defense. I do think, I don't want to say dark horse Indiana as far as they're going to be a 9-10 win team or anything like that, but a dark horse team in the fact that they are going to surprise a lot of people. They're going to win some games. They do have a lot of winnable games. They've got Michigan and Ohio State. But outside of that, they don't have Oregon. They don't have USC. I don't think they have Wisconsin or Iowa. They've got Washington and Nebraska, and those are a difficulty level 3 and 4 out of their Big Ten schedule here. This game against UCLA is right on par with the rest of their schedule difficulty wise. So if they can get through this one, they're in a great spot to be again, I'm not saying they would be the 4th or 5th best team in the Big Ten on paper, but record wise, with the schedule, they've got a chance to be kind of that team where if all things break their way, they could have a borderline dream season, and I'm not putting them at the college football playoff. I'm not trying to say that they're probably going to lose a random game or two. They could absolutely lose this game here against UCLA. But one of those situations where if things break their way, we could be seeing them as a mainstay in the top 25 this season in college football. Again, do I think they're that good? I don't know yet, but I am more impressed than I was expecting to be out of this Indiana team. And with their schedule, they could look a lot better than what they probably are, and record-wise be a lot better than they probably are. So things could go their way. I will go to their team total over 24.5 in this game. For the Hoosiers, I think their offense is legit, and I think they proved it here at UCLA. And 6:30, 7:30 game time on NBC. I off the top of my head, I don't know what other games are on that time, but could be turning a few heads and impressing some people that might not be expecting to see Indiana play winning football on a major stage here. So I'm going to go Indiana gets the win and goes over that team total. But I could be proven wrong. Still too early to tell what we've got out of UCLA this year. Last one, not a Big Ten matchup, but a solid matchup, former ACC matchup, Maryland and Virginia. Maryland 2.5 3-point favorites, depending on what book you are looking at. Maryland coming off of that loss at home to Michigan State, 27-24. They took down UConn 50-7 in week 1. Virginia 2-0, win at home against Richmond, 34-13, and then a nice win at Wake Forest last week, 31-30, as 1.5 point favorites. So very short favorites there. Now they find themselves as dogs in this one after a Maryland team loses there at home to Michigan State. A lot of reasons to suggest that maybe this is a regression spot for Virginia, a bounce back spot for Maryland. Team total is 30.5 for Maryland, 27.5 for Virginia. Not sure what to expect out of both of these offenses. I'm not overly impressed by these two teams defensively as the course of these games go on. So I'm kind of throwing my hands up on this one. A lot of things will tell me that I'm trying to believe in Maryland here in this game. I believed in them a little more than what I should have last week. I thought Michigan State was going to be a lot worse coming in that game, and I was flat out wrong. So I'll lean towards Maryland getting the win in this one, and this one could be a 10-14 point game. I could be totally wrong, and Virginia gets a nice win and blows Maryland out of the water. So I don't want to play both sides here, but confidence level very low out of this game. But I'll lean towards Maryland going on the road as favorites and getting the win. So I wish I could have a little more confidence out of that one, but at the very least, that one should be a fun one, and could go either way. So if you like either of those teams, I think you just go ahead and take either one at face value on the spread there. If you like one of their defenses, go ahead and take the other team's team total under potentially there. But I don't know anyone that's overly overjoyed by either of these defenses after we saw from them last week, but I could be wrong there. So almost 30 minutes into the show, my friends. I don't have too much as far as Wednesday night is concerned. We've got still some baseball on the docket, but a lot of games either currently happening or already in the tank here. I think there's 5 games left in the MLB here tonight. A few of them starting in the next hour or so. So I won't go too deep into those at all here. We had some fun with some college football and the Big Ten this week. This fine Wednesday evening, talking all things Saturday Big Ten slate. Next week should be a fun one as well. I think we're starting to transition. We've still got some non-conference games. We start to get some nice conference games. I mentioned that Illinois-Nebraska game next Friday. UCLA, LSU on Saturday, so a nice non-conference game there. And then you got some handful of conference games. Iowa, Minnesota, the revenge spot of the fair catch that never was. Northwestern Washington, USC Michigan, the big one of the week there, as well as a few other ones there. So it should be another fun week out of the Big Ten next week. Stay tuned on when I will be doing next week's Big Ten show. Not sure if it'll be these Wednesdays or if it'll be another day, sometimes Fridays, sometimes Saturdays. So got to stay tuned for that. We'll have some fun with these Big Ten shows. I do love talking Big Ten football, even with these new additions. It's just more the merrier at this point. We got some fun matchups to talk about all season long in the Big Ten. So without further ado, I will go ahead and get on out of here. Again, thank you to Wager Wire for being a proud partner and sponsor of these shows. We do love what we have with them, and we'll continue to do so. But without further ado, I will go ahead and get on out of here, my friends. Let me see. I want to make sure I don't mess up the schedule if I'm the last one or not. I believe we still have Scotty Webb, yes, coming up here in 35 minutes for the In the Batter's Box show with Scotty Webb here tonight at 6:15 Eastern Time, 5:15 Central Time, my time. So definitely stick around for that with Scott Webb. He will probably go into a lot more in-depth with the baseball slate and what's going on in the world of baseball as opposed to my Big Ten show here today. So if you came for some baseball, don't fear. In about 35 minutes, you'll get some great baseball knowledge from the man, Scott Webb. So definitely be on the lookout for that. Outside of that, I will see y'all later. I will not be around tomorrow to talk Thursday NFL. You'll get that from a different source. Without seeing the schedule, I don't know that off the top of my head, but I assume you'll get some good NFL knowledge tomorrow. And then I'll plan on being back here around on Friday afternoon to talk. I believe there's some good college football, and then obviously preview what we've got going on the rest of Saturday and Sunday in the football world. Thank you all for stopping by. You are I'm very gracious of your time and stopping by and hanging out with us here for 30 minutes to an hour every day, every show. So thank y'all. I will see y'all later, and enjoy your Wednesday evening.